Welcome. This is Sappho of the Traveler's Well Astrology, and today I'd like to talk to you about the map package we're going to be sending in advance of your consultation. We're going to talk about confirming your birth data. We're going to explain a little bit about the lines you're going to see on the maps. Now, I do have to say in this video, we can't teach astrology of location, but we want to provide a fundamental understanding of the symbols on the maps so that you know what you're looking at. And then we're going to take all of the planets and we're going to throw them into two categories, supportive or challenging, which should also help you as you're looking at your maps. And then talk about the ultimate deliverable from the consultation, which is your location summary. So first, let's talk about confirming your birth data. The very first page of the map document will be your birth chart. And at the top of that is your birth data. So right in the center is your birth date. On the left-hand side is your birth location. And then on the right-hand side is your birth time. And that's the one we really need to pay close attention to for astrology of location. So we do ask that you take a look at this page, and then once you've confirmed the data, we know that we're on the same page and that we're proceeding from a good foundation of data. If you ordered a North America location search, the first page of your map package will be your birth chart. Then you will have two maps. These are your primary energy maps of astrocartography and geodetic. Wolfram will refer to these as Map 1 and Map 2. If you ordered a global location search, the first page of your document will also be your birth chart. This is the document where we ask you to review your birth data for us and confirm that we're on the same page. You will have then 6 maps, 2 for North America, 2 for Europe, and 2 for the entire world. These will be astrocartography and geodetic maps for each region, and Wolfram will refer to them as Map 1, Map 2, Map 3, and Map 4, Map 5, and Map 6. Here's a snippet of a map, like what you will find in your map package, where you'll see planetary symbols, and then there'll be red lines and yellow lines, and behind the planetary symbol, there'll be a little cannonball or a barbell. So first, let's take a step back and talk about the 4 angles of the birth chart, because that's what you're really seeing reflected in the map. The first part of the birth chart is your ascendant or your rising sign. That's your personal projection into life. Then opposing the ascendant, you have your descendant. And that's how other people view you in relationships of all types. The midheaven is your 10th house, represents your career and social status, while the IC represents your home and heritage. These are the axis of identity in your birth chart. Each planet in your birth chart is represented in the maps on those 4 angles. As we said, we have the ascendant. So when you're dealing with an ascendant energy, you have a yellow line, and let's call this a cannonball. There's going to be a yellow line with that cannonball next to it. When you're dealing with the descendant energy, it's going to be a yellow line, and let's call this a barbell. So when you see a yellow line with a barbell, you know you're dealing with your descendant. When you're working with your midheaven energy, it's always going to be a red line with a cannonball. And when you're dealing with your IC, the bottom of your chart or your 4th house, it's going to be a barbell on a red line. So when you place your birth chart around this, you have your axis of identity and the cusp of your 1st house, your 4th house, your 7th house, and your 10th house forming the axis of identity. So each planet in your birth chart is going to be expressed onto a map via those 4 angles. So let's talk about that now. So when we take your birth chart and apply it to maps, every planet will be represented through the 4 angles of your birth chart. We have ascendant and descendant energies, once again, the ascendant being the cannonball, the descendant being the barbell. These are curved lines, and they're the yellow lines. So when you're looking at your map and you're seeing lines that are yellow, you're seeing either an ascendant or a descendant energy, depending on whether the line has a cannonball or a barbell. Likewise, when you're dealing with midheaven and IC energies, these are always going to be straight lines, and they're going to be red. The midheaven will look like a cannonball, and the IC will look like a barbell. So that's how you can identify the lines that you're looking at. Typically, people want to say, because we're just taught this, right? That red is bad. Red means stop. So they say, oh, I got to avoid those red lines, right? No, it's the red and the yellow are just distinguishing factors so that you can identify ascendant and descendant from midheaven and IC. It's what's programmed into the software. We can't change it. So don't think good and bad. Just think of this as a matter of identifying what energy you're working with. Here's a fun little animation to demonstrate. Ascendant and descendant lines are always yellow and they're always curved. The ascendant is going to be a cannonball and the descendant is going to be a barbell. The midheaven and IC lines are always red and they're always straight. The midheaven is going to be a cannonball and the IC is going to be a barbell. That's the angles of your birth chart reflected onto a map. Each planet will be represented through those 4 angles. So in your global map, for example, when you're looking at the sun will be represented through those 4 angles thusly. So let's look for that sun energy on an actual map, as it's represented through its ascendant, descendant, midheaven, and IC formations. Here's a map. It happens to be mine. It's a global map, so it's going to have all 4 angles. If you're dealing just with North America, you won't have all 4 angles because the 4 angles are represented across the entire globe. So in the lower left-hand corner is where we find my red line for the sun, which goes straight up and down with the cannonball. That's my sun midheaven. Next, we have my curved yellow sun line with a barbell. So we have my sun descendant. Followed by another straight up and down red line, which is my sun IC. And finally, on the right-hand side of the map, we have the final curved yellow line with the cannonball, which is my sun ascendant. So there we see all 4 placements of the sun energy across the globe. Now let's take a look at breaking down the planets into the categories of benefic and malefic. Let's start by taking a closer look at the benefic planets. These are the planets that have an overall supportive energy. These are the planets that you actually want to identify and live at locations with benefic energies. There are powerful benefic planets and mild benefic planets. The 2 powerful benefics are the Sun and Jupiter, and these are among the best energies that you can live on. The mild supportive or benefic energies consist of Mercury, Venus, and the Moon, and they can also present us with lovely energies, but they won't be graded in that A range. They'll be down toward the B range. Here then is an example of the sun with its ascendant, midheaven, descendant, and IC signifiers. The red color with the cannonball or barbell, and the yellow color with the cannonball or barbell. So you can see that we have the sun ascendant, descendant, midheaven, and IC. And we follow those through with the sun, Jupiter, Mercury, Venus, and the moon. Let's take a look now at the malefic planets. These are planets that overall have a challenging energy. These are the planets we'd like to avoid, but we can't always avoid them. And that's why we try to provide in our location summaries ways that you can navigate these energies. The planets involved with the malefic energies are Mars, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Here we see Mars represented in his ascendant, midheaven, descendant, and IC, red, yellow, cannonball, barbell. and we go right down the row to include Mars, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. These are the malefic planets and those you'd like to avoid. About a week after meeting, we'll send you an audio file of your discussion with Wolfram, in addition to a location summary. The purpose of the location summary is to document all of the locations that Wolfram discussed with you. Here's a snippet from a location summary, and I'd like to walk through it with you. The first thing that you'll notice is on the left-hand column, we list the city being discussed. In this case, it's Austin, Texas. And we're going to tell you whether that's your current location, whether it's one as a considered location and you asked about it, or one that's a supportive location we identified through our research. Then we'll let you know if the location is recommended for living, just for travel, or for both living and travel. Sometimes neither box will be checked. For example, your current location may not be supportive, and we wouldn't recommend it for either living or travel. Oftentimes, locations span a region, and we do our best to define what that region is for you. In this case, it goes from Iowa to Mexico, covering Austin on the way down, but we're recommending Austin. So that gives you an idea of other options, so you can expand your research if you want. Sometimes there will be more often than not, there's no region notes, but where they are present, we'll be sure to tell you. The purpose of this consultation is to find your best locations. So the locations that we recommend and discuss with you will typically be of a grade A or A minus. And this goes from grade A being the best to F being the worst. There will be also some grade B locations and some mixed locations discussed with you. A mixed location contains challenging and supportive energy, and sometimes that just can't be avoided, but it can be navigated. Then the bulk of the report is the description summary, where there's primary energies, secondary energies, and temporary energies. Primary energies are those contained in Map 1, your astrocartography map, and Map 2, the geodetic map. The first energy described here is a powerfully supportive energy of the sun on the ascendant. Once again, that's how it's identified, the sun symbol and the yellow cannonball. The next energy is a Mercury ascendant energy. Oh, this is a great location. And that's the symbol for Mercury. You'd identify it on your map with the cannonball. So if this was your consultation, you'd have a description of the sun, a description of Mercury, and if you pulled out Map 1 and Map 2, you would see the sun or Mercury near or directly over the location that we discussed with you. And you should be able to identify the region as well. This next thing that's listed are the secondary energies. These are local space energies and Paran energies. We do not provide those maps in your map package, but don't worry, we do evaluate those maps, all 4 maps, astrocartography, geodetic, local space, and Paran, and here's where your secondary energies would be listed. Finally, planets do transit locations providing a temporary influence. So for example, if Saturn's transiting one of your best locations, you want to know about it because for a little while you're going to feel that heaviness of Saturn present. So most often there's no temporary energies, but we will look for a 24-month period, so that you know between now and the next 2 years any temporary influences present at the location. That's a really quick overview of what you're going to find in that location summary. Thank you for listening today, and I hope this overview will be helpful as you receive your map package and prepare for your upcoming consultation with Wolfram. As always, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out via our website, www.astrologyoflocation.com. And as always, may you move in harmony with the sun, moon, and stars.